Hi guys, well today we are going to be checking out the RTX 5070 Ti in the form of this Gigabyte RTX 5070 Ti Eagle OC ICE SFF. So from that name, you obviously know that the Eagle is going to be on the more affordable side of things. OC meaning it is an overclocked edition, ICE signifying it is white, and SFF telling us that it has been designed there to conform to the small form factor. Now I bought this card some months ago, and at that time, stock was really hard to come by. This is actually one of 3 different models to choose from at that time, and I saw this Eagle here and I really liked the look of it, so I went and grabbed it. Stock availability is a lot better nowadays, which is great to see. So if you actually wanted to grab this particular model here, it is $900 in the UK, $900 in the US, and then $1,700 in Australia. So that is much more than the RRP, which we originally saw the 5070 Ti arrive with, which was $750 US. So once we've had a look at our Eagle here, we are going to be turning our attention to this card here, the 3070 Ti. So we're going to be skipping an entire generation, and we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of how much of a performance advantage do we get jumping from this card over to the current generation, which I think is an interesting way of looking at things. Okay, this is Eagle. Now within Gigabyte's lineup, Eagle is placed as more of an affordable option, and with that you can see that we've got a fairly simple design. That being said, I think this is a great looking card. The shroud is plastic, but it is still packed with a stylish design which has different surface textures and perforations. The centerpiece for this card is the triple fan cooler. This is Gigabyte's renowned Windforce cooling system, and there are 3 Hawk fans. We're going to go into more detail about this cooler when we remove it later in the video. Now in terms of the RGB lighting, things are kept to a minimum with this card. You can see the effects can be modified using Gigabyte Control Center. Now this card has been given the NVIDIA SFF classification, so while it is still quite long, it is designed to be housed inside a small form factor configuration. Here are the dimensions. The length is just over 300mm, for the width it is 115, and then the height is just over 50mm. Now this card does come with a factory overclock straight out of the box, and so the reference boost is 2452, and with this card that clock has been bumped up to 2542 MHz, which is just 3% and almost 100 MHz. The memory frequency is at stock, and so that is 28 gigabits, and that arrives in the form of 16 gig of GDDR7 with a 256-bit bus. This card uses the PCI Express 5 standard. It comes in there with 8,960 CUDA cores, has the DirectX 12 Ultimate support, along with Vulkan 1.4 and OpenGL 4.6. Now in terms of the rear I/O panel, this card does stray slightly over the 2 slots on the board, and then it just takes up the 2 on the case. On the back panel here, we've got the 3 DisplayPort 1.4s. Those can give you the 8K at 60, and then 1 HDMI 2.1 port that allows us to use 4K at 120 and then 8K at 60 Hz. To power this card, we're going to need a 750 watt power supply, and as you can see, it is the 12 volt 2x6 connector that is required. Turning to the back of the card, we've got a metal backplate, which gives us that protection for the PCB, and there is that cutout towards the end of the card for the heatsink, which provides a bit of additional ventilation for that fan to push the air through. And up by the power connector, there is a toggle for dual BIOS, allowing you to switch to performance or quiet mode. Okay, well it's now time to remove the cooler from Eagle and check out what we have underneath. And so first of all, we have the 3 95mm fans, which are a 7-blade design. The middle fan spins in a clockwise direction, while the other 2 spin in anti-clockwise direction, which is designed there to increase the airflow pressure. As with most Gigabyte cards, we have 3D active on this model, meaning that when the card is idle, those fans are going to stop spinning. Underneath those fans, we have a single piece dual heatsink, which has 7 heat pipes. The copper plate on this cooler sits over the memory, the VRM, and the GPU. Now as you can see, Gigabyte has chosen to opt for an alternative to the usual thermal pads, and instead we've got a conductive gel which has been applied, and so I'm obviously not going to remove that paste, and I'll leave it as is, because once that gel has been removed, it is not going to be going back on. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to check out whether this cooler does a decent job. With that cooler off the card, we also get access to the board itself, and again you can see that we've got that thermal gel that has been used, and that covers the MOSFETs and the VRAM. And at the heart of our 5070 Ti is GB203 using Blackwell architecture. Now the 5070 Ti is aimed squarely at 1440p, but how will it perform up against the 3070 Ti? So the plan now is to check out the performance of Eagle. We're going to be putting it up against the Zotac RTX 3070 Ti Amp Extreme. As we mentioned earlier, we're going to be skipping a generation and to see how this older card here compares to its new counterpart, to see if it's worth an upgrade and how significant that is. And rather than look at graphs, we're going to check out the actual in-game performance. And for this, we're going to obviously go with 1440p, and then we'll slap on the maximum detail preset in each game. We'll be using the very latest drivers from Nvidia, and we're also going to have GPUs out there running in the background to pick up on the maximum temperature result. The result for that will come at the end. Okay, well that is the RTX 5070 Ti Eagle, a card which at that resolution of 1440p, it handles games very well indeed. We put it up against the 3070 Ti just in front of me here, and you can clearly see that from those tests there is a significant advantage if you were to skip a generation and if you're wanting to upgrade. Now we did only test 1440p, 1080 is designed and suited really for the 5060 Ti. And then 4K, well that is reserved for the 5080 and the 5090. This card does do 4K, but that is really the realm of the high end. On the styling and design of Eagle, I really like what Gigabyte has done with the shroud, and the RGB has been kept to a minimum. I also really like that we're seeing more and more white GPUs hitting the market. I've actually got a white Aero in my own rig, and I love how it coordinates with the rest of my gear. And on the cooling side of things, Eagle sits around the 70-degree mark, which is great, and the cooling fans hit around 1700 RPM, which I found quite enough. Now pricing is obviously a sticking point, as we mentioned at the very beginning of this video. These cards here are way above the RRP, and that is partly why we chose to go with the 3070 Ti when we tested, because if you are coming up from the likes of the 40 series, the performance uplift is going to be less significant, and then you've got the fact that you've got to pay over the odds for a card like this. And so it makes more sense really, and it's easier to stomach the price tag if you are seeing more of a substantial performance uplift and advantage. So what do you guys think of Eagle that we've taken a look at today? Are you considering an upgrade? Let me know in the comment section below. As always guys, thanks very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.